Do you believe that changing your gear will improve your level? Most of us do, and most of us have been wrong, more than once. This is Darts is Fun, and today I'm gonna talk about an addiction many darts players suffer from, including me. And no, it's not about alcohol or cigarettes, even though those are part of our darts culture. I'm talking about something far more magical and far more dangerous and far more expensive. Signature barrels, freshly machined grip patterns, shafts made of material we cannot even pronounce, flights with holographic symbols, dartboards with countless core technology, and rainbow-colored numbering rings. It's the world of chasing darts gear, spending a ridiculous amount of money with the hope that it will finally make us a better player. Or just simply because it feels good to buy something new and beautiful, a golden barrel with color matching points, flights and shafts. Yeah, I've been there. Most darts players are chasing the perfect setup, and some of them, like me, are ready to spend the value of a decent used car on it, in installments of course. And what did I do to finally reduce my purchases closer to something reasonable? Consumables, occasional sets, and some unnecessary stuff. Let me start with a story. In the fall of 2024, I was playing quite well. Not on a tour card level, but confident enough to enter the Q school. I wanted experiences and I wanted some challenge. I had been throwing the same set of darts for over a year. We knew each other quite well, we were almost friends. Then, as part of the preparation, I increased my daily practice to 3-4 hours a day. And suddenly I realized something about my grip, or at least I thought I did. I convinced myself that I didn't have any control at the release, that the grip was too soft. Something I never questioned for almost a year became to be a crisis in 48 hours. So I started researching. What are the darts on the market similar to mine, but with better grip? I found like 4 or 5 candidates, and in 5 minutes I ordered 2 of them. And then came the worst part, the waiting. For a week I checked the tracking number multiple times a day like it was a newborn baby. High hopes for the unknown, zero trust in the setup which carried me for a year. Looking back, it was quite ridiculous, but it was also me. The package finally arrived. Shiny boxes, beautiful colors, and I tore them open like a kid on Christmas evening. Okay, let's throw. First set. Not ideal. Second set. Even worse. Back to the first one. Maybe I just need some time. After throwing 30 minutes, it's not the best, but on paper this should work. So I convinced myself that I should stick to that. So this was around 2 months before the Q school, which should be the time when you are stabilizing, not experimenting. But I pushed through with a new set of darts, and despite I had some good games, I had terrible consistency. So on the Q school everything felt rigid, no flow, huge ups and downs, but at least some lessons learned. But you know what? I did the same mistake just before the Q school this year. I love the look and the specs of the new Harriet Lim G2s, and I completely ignored the fact that I was throwing something else for almost a year with good results. So I bought them, and I loved them for a session. And the day after, it was okay, but not better than the one before. But because I was chasing the ideal feeling and the ideal setup, I just switched again just before the biggest competition of the year. Why am I telling this? Because it wasn't about the equipment. It was about trying to buy the progress instead of earning it. The selection of darts gear exploded in the last 6 years. Manufacturers, dealers, influencers, pros, everybody has their own incentive to sell us something new. They don't care if it works for us. And I'm not preaching, I buy tons of stuff too. But we need to stay realistic what new gear can and cannot do. It is so easy to believe a new gadget will make us better. But hands on heart, from 100 purchases, how many truly helped? Finding the right setup is part of the journey. But becoming a better player doesn't depend on it. I own more than 50 sets of darts, and those boxes behind me are full of accessories. Did they make me a better player? I don't think so. Practice, reflection, the systems what I built for myself, they did. And the funniest part, when I recently tested all the sets which I bought over the last 6 years, more than half felt at least okay. And surprisingly, some of them felt even better than my current setup. And if I would start mixing points, shafts and flights, well, I know where that road leads to. So what is really happening? Why do we repeat the same mistakes again and again? Why do we overwrite our rational thinking? First, it always feels great to buy something new, especially for people with ADHD like me. It is bringing the dopamine hit, the reward. And the gear is designed to seduce us. Buy me, I make you throw like a pro. Then there is the shortcut fantasy. We try to develop faster with less pain. And we think we found the magic key. And yes, sometimes changing the setup can really help. But even then, it's rarely about the gear itself. New gadgets can only trigger changes we do internally, in our beliefs, confidence, self-trust. Sometimes we also have the pressure when others progress. It's not necessarily jealousy, but the fear of missing out, and the fear that our mate will overtake us, especially when he explains how much his new set helped him. If it worked for him, it will work for me. And then 2 weeks later, we see that he's throwing a completely new set again. But we still believe him. And my favorite, if I throw an expensive set of darts in custom shirts and all matching accessories, I will look like a serious darts player. And of course I will, till I start throwing and show how bad I am in hitting the sectors. But the most common reason, we want to avoid facing our inconsistency. It is much easier to blame the setup than to face the reality. We paint a picture of not having ideal conditions instead of taking responsibility. So what we can do to avoid these traps, and what have I changed to mitigate the problem? First, I've decided to stick to my actual setup more rigidly. I treat any potential change as a threat to my development. If I test anything new, I do it in a controlled way. Limited time, multiple sessions. For example, a few weeks ago, I thought about switching to longer shafts again. So I threw 10 minutes each session with longer shafts, then switched back to the original one. And I wrote down everything what I felt. After a week of testing, I stayed with my original setup. There was no real evidence which proved that the change would bring me any improvement. Basically, I bought myself time to collect objective information before I took the decision. And it was great that I could use my professional experience with continuous improvement at my hobby as well. I also made a decision after the Q School this year that I will not chase the results anymore, and I try to accept what I'm capable of. And it doesn't mean that I don't want to win. It just means that I try to not to get freaked out if I'm not able to deliver top performance at each and every game. It wasn't easy at first. Actually, it was even worse for a couple weeks. But then it started to get better slowly. And last weekend I lost the final of a tournament which I was leading the whole way, and still I was able to come down from the hockey with a smile. I believe this approach will help me stay realistic. Time will tell. And of course, I will share how it goes. There are still a couple things what you can do to avoid spending hell amount of money on unnecessary stuff. Set a budget. You can still buy a lot of stuff, but in a much controlled way. Buy second-hand barrels. Great for experimenting and finding your ideal shape early on. The Amazon trick. I've heard some people order barrels from Amazon, try them and return them. If you do not damage them, you can browse barrels at zero cost. Try the darts at a store if you have one nearby. Personally, I don't like this so much because this can also drive you to impulsive decisions. But if you can have a control to try the darts multiple times before buying, this can also help a lot. Here are my takeaways. The throw matters more than the gear and the system you use for follow-up. I keep reminding myself, if the darts goes well, I can throw with almost everything. But if it doesn't, the gear won't save me. Gear is fun, but don't let it distract us from the real work. Will I buy new darts? Probably. But at least now I know why, and it won't necessarily mean that I drop my existing setup. I hope it was interesting. Thanks for joining today. Remember, darts is fun, watch and play every day. Cheers.